Cloud DB, shaping your new normal.
Welcome everyone to the 2021 APAC Groundbreakers virtual tour by APAC OUC. This year our event would be the biggest one ever done with 144 sessions, including normal sessions, workshops and hands-on labs from 100 different speakers over 17 days. Also, it would cover sessions in 4 different languages: English, Chinese, Japanese, and Korean. Please remember to register to as many sessions as you can. I would like to say thanks to all Oracle user groups and Java user groups that made this event possible, and also to our sponsors, Oracle Groundbreakers, and our main sponsor, Cloud DB. Now for today's session, Oracle 21c Cool Features, not only for DBAs, by Mike Dietrich. Sorry, Mike, if I pronounced it.
Oh, you pronounced it perfectly well.
All right. Who is a master product manager, Oracle database upgrades and migrations, wherein Mike will be talking about some of the cool features in 21c who are free as well. So please feel free to, and also we're joined by our co-speaker, Daniel. And please feel free to write any questions at any time during the session on the chat tab of the live webinar, and the speaker will try to answer as many questions as possible at the end of the session. And if there are any issues during the presentation, please feel free to contact me at any time on the chat tab as well. Now, without any further delay, I'd like to leave you with this amazing session by Mike and Daniel. Thank you. Over to you. Mike.
Hello, everybody. And we are happy to present today at APAC OUG, and thank you to Francisco and all the organizers, because we know this is a huge effort to set up such an event across so many time zones with speakers from all over the world, and also, as Raj said already, in different languages. So today we would like to speak about cool features for, not only for DBAs actually, and features mostly from 21c. And I brought Daniel with me because we couldn't find out how to advance slides remotely on the platform. So Daniel will share the presentation, and he has also to advance all the slides while I talk. So Daniel, please, next slide.
Yeah, and I mean, other than advancing slides, I do also play a good part of this presentation as well. I have something technical to say, not just advancing slides.
No. I just want to do the introduction quickly.
Sure.
And so I'm the PM, as Raj said, for database upgrades, migrations, and you may know my blog, mikedietrich.com, and please follow me on Twitter. If you don't already, it's safe because I use Twitter only for technical topics. And then over to Daniel to introduce himself.
Thank you. My name is Daniel. I work together with Mike in his team. We work with upgrades, patching, and migrations. I am mostly focused on cloud migrations, but whenever time allows, I also dig into some of the other topics. DOHdatabase.com. I try to blog as much as I can. Technical, like Mike, it's safe. No cat videos or baby videos or whatever. You can also follow me on Twitter and LinkedIn if you want. If you want to get the slides that we are using today, you can head on over to our blogs and download the slides. They should be there already. Also, Rodrigo, our team member from Brazil, he's not here today. But if you're interested in patching things and security, especially, you should follow Rodrigo as well. His blog is in the middle of the page. And if that is not enough, if you need more tech contents, we have a whole series of webinars that we've produced over the last year and a half. It's all technical. There is no marketing and only a few buzzwords. And we cover a range of topics from release and patching to upgrade to how to ensure performance stability after the upgrade, migrations, zero downtime operations, and so much more. So mikedietrich.com/videos. There you will find the slides and the recordings, and you can see which of the webinars that are to come in the future. Okay.
I think
read-only Oracle Home. That's something for you, Mike.
Yes, I think we should start here. And sorry, I didn't want to mention that you are just advancing the slides. We share today's presentation. And let us start here with one topic, read-only Oracle Homes. And you have to click forward, please. So first of all, read-only Oracle Homes are not a 21C feature. That feature came in actually with Oracle 18C. But since it is the default since 21C, we thought we'll cover this home here, or this topic here. You will find it in a documentation, documented more or less well. Actually, some things are shortened there, and you may find information on my or Tim Hall's blog, actually, as usual. So the idea of read-only homes is that it's simple and easy to clone homes or provision homes, because all the configuration and log files are kept outside the Oracle home. Which is hard at some point, because I mean, you get used to that for a long, long while, and now there's a change. The installation works as usual. In 21C, you don't see any difference in the installation, and there's nothing you need to do. But when you would like to enable read-only homes in Oracle 19C or 18C, you have to do this extra step marked here as number 2. You have to run this ROOH-CTL for read-only Oracle Home CTL minus enable. And this will change some things and move the log tree and stuff like that out of the home. Now we can watch a quick short demo. So in this demo here, we start with something very straightforward. We do all the time. We create a new directory. We call it ROOH19. And now I copy in the 19C zip file. I download it from eDelivery. I copy in also the patch zip file for this current release update at the time when we recorded the demo. And I copy in the most recent OPatch version. So we start with a basic installation. I have these 3 zip files in my Oracle home, and I unzip the base release at first. And then I clean up the zip file because we don't need that anymore. Next step is, in this unzipped home, I remove the OPatch directory and unzip my downloaded newest OPatch. And this will now recreate the directory, but with a new OPatch version. And finally, I unzip now the release update I would like to install. Because what we are doing here, we install not only the base release, but also the release update in one pass. And therefore, the installer has this super cool feature, apply RU, minus apply RU. And you can also apply one-offs if you want to. So you can have a long list of things you apply in one pass. And I use this very, very often, actually. So the installer gets called then. You see, we choose software installation only, enterprise edition, the right users. And I would like to have the installer also execute root.sh. So I pass on my credentials and then kick off the installation. And while the installation is running, it takes a little bit. At some point, it will stop and ask me for confirmation to confirm that it should really run this root script, and the installation is done. So far it's the default, and in 21C you would have had an read-only home at this point already. But mine here is 19C, so I need to run this ROOH-CTL enable, and this will now create and change the associations for parts in the home. And there are some important directories here. So first, we have the Orabase config. And this is basically just a pointer to that directory. So it's the Oracle base in this case. But more important is the Orabase home. Because the Orabase home is not under my Oracle home. It's now this new tree here under the Oracle base called homes. And this is what you see on the right side in the tree command. There's a new directory, homes, and it has the same name as the home tag in the inventory. And under this separate tree, you find now all the, like the flexible, the volatile files, the logs, install, network admin, RDBMS audit, log, and so on and so on. Also the assistants. So this is not the actual Oracle home, it's separated. And on the right side, left side, you see also the original DBS when I do that. The original DBS contents as part of the ROHCTL action will be moved into this separate DBS directory here. But when you start from scratch, you will have the tree on the right side. That's important. And now you create a database and it will populate these things. And the idea is the read-only home is completely separate. I can package it and just unzip it somewhere else and drop it there. And this is the default with 21C.
Cool.
Now, over to Daniel, to you.
Thank you. I like read-only Oracle homes, but the next one is even cooler. That's expression-based parameters. So what's that? I think it's easiest to illustrate with an example. So imagine this alter system command. Set CPU count to 8 divided by 2. So isn't that cool? You can now in an alter system command, you can do numeric operation. And I mean, we all know that 8 divided by 2, that's not super cool, but it gives the foundation for what we can else do. Because not only can we set a system parameter to a numeric operation, we can also set it to another parameter. So in this case, for instance, if we have set SGA max size in our database and we want SGA target to be as high as possible, we can simply now set SGA target to the value of SGA max size. You can use another parameter as input for an alter system command. And you can even combine it. So combine a parameter with a numeric operation. So if you want to set the shared pool to be 20% of the overall SGA, that's as a minimum, you can do that now as a numeric operation, SGA target, and then multiply it by 0.2. So it's super easy. You don't have to do the calculation itself. It's very flexible, and it calculates the value when you issue the alter system command. And there are some functions that you can use as well with minimum and maximum. So you can use the max function to take the highest value of two values. So in this case, we can say take the highest value of either 8,000 megabytes or SGA target minus 5,000 megabytes times 0.2. And you can use min and max there as well. And it gets even cooler because you can use environment variables as input as well. If you're running your database on Windows, there's an environment variable called number of processes. You can use that as input to set CPU count. So if you want to do instance caching on this specific database and ensure that it only uses half of the available CPU on the host, you can simply set it to the environment variable number of processors divided by 2. So those were the alter system commands, but you can specify it in the P file as well. So if you need to do a P file instead of an SP file, you can put things in there as well. And the syntax is kind of similar. But let's see how it works in real life. I've prepared a small demo where we can see the use of these parameters. We can see that number of processors, the environment variable, is set to 8. So let me just simply set CPU count to the number of processors divided by 2. So this will be 4 in my case. I can also see that I have a fairly large SGA. Max size is around 30 gig and target is 26 gig. But I want to bump up the memory and allow the SGA to grow as much as possible. So now the SGA automatically grows to that of the SGA max size. My shared pool is currently undefined. The lower limit is undefined, but I want to ensure that always 20% of the SGA is allocated to the shared pool. So I can do that with a numeric operation as well. So those were some practical use cases of how you can make your administration of the database much easier by using expression-based parameters.
Yeah, and I fully agree with you. That's a super cool feature, and it's fun, and you can create a lot of great stuff in the SP file. I'll try it also by myself.
Yeah,
and
I mean, you won't see any of our VPs showing this at Oracle Database World or anything else, but I think that I've spent many years as an operational DBA, and I could clearly see this as a very valid use case. So I love this feature.
Yeah, absolutely. I fully agree with you. And it makes really sometimes things much more easier because you can create these great dependencies. And as you showed, I have this parameter and the other should be a fraction or a factor of it. It's just awesome. Let's just go on to the next cool feature, and it's fast deploy. And as you know, we are the upgrade guys. So we have to talk a little bit about upgrades. And fast deploy is one of these cool new auto-upgrade features. So upgrading with less downtime by running the pre-upgrade fix-ups in advance. That's the idea here. So a traditional upgrade would look like this with auto-upgrade. You first, best practices, you run the analyze command. And the analyze command will tell you, okay, you have to do this, that. And then when you kick in the deploy mode, what you see on the bottom of the slide, the deploy mode will do now everything, but it will repeat the analyze command because there could be something introduced in between you running the analyzer's best practices, and then maybe you schedule the upgrade for tonight, 10 hours later. But in case you are in full control, we have introduced now this fast deploy mode. And this changes here. What will happen is that you run the analyze, then you run the fix-ups, and then you run -mode upgrade. And you would say, if you are very familiar with auto upgrade, oh, I know that. Yeah, but the change here is that there's also a guaranteed restore point in place because auto upgrade detects now that you run the fix-ups already. Usually we use this upgrade mode only when you move to a new server where you don't have GRPs, but you can basically issue the actions by yourself and don't lose any of the functionality. The difference is just that the upgrade will now just upgrade the database and you have everything done beforehand. But there's one thing to take into account. Between fix-ups and downtime, there's a risk that new undetected issues are introduced. So when you're using that, be really in control and don't have a time frame of 20 hours in between you done the fix-ups and then you actually kick in the upgrade. So make this a shorter period. But it's also a nice tiny little feature you won't find in one of, as Daniel said, one of the VP's presentations, except for Roy doing that presentation. He may talk about that.
Cool. Another little useful feature is checksums in data pump. With 21C, you can now calculate the checksum of a data pump dump file on the export. And then later on, when you're importing that dump file, you can verify the integrity of the dump file by ensuring that the checksum hasn't changed, that something hasn't happened to the dump file. So imagine when you do a data pump export and you put everything into a dump file, if you're migrating into a different data center or into OCI, for instance, or other clouds, the dump file then has to travel quite a long while from the source database to the target database. And what could possibly go wrong in that process? What could happen to the dump file? Well, a corruption could sneak in. Even though we are transporting our stuff over the network with TCP/IP, we do see from time to time that corruptions do sneak into a dump file. Later on in the import, you might, at the very last phase of the import, find out that there's a corruption in the dump file, and the import might error out. So that's pretty much of a bummer. But it could also be tampering. If someone in the process of the dump file traveling to the cloud is able to inject new data or change data in the dump file. If you were encrypting your dump file using data pump, you won't have to worry about that. But if you don't encrypt your dump file, then possibly something could happen. Someone could maliciously introduce changes into the dump file as it transfers to the target. So how do you detect corruption or alteration? Well, previously, you would need to calculate the checksum yourself. And in this example, I'm using the MD5 checksum, which is a very old, and it's not a very good checksum algorithm, but it's just to illustrate an example here. You could calculate the MD5 checksum of your dump files, And then as they are transferred into, in this case, into OCI, you could use the DBMS cloud package to get the checksum of the DOM files as they're sitting there in the object storage. You could compare them and ensure that no corruption or tampering has happened to the DOM files. But now in Datapump 21, we've made that a lot easier, because when you export, you can tell Datapump at the end, calculate the checksum of all the DOM files, and then write that checksum into the DOM file itself. Then you might think that if you are writing the checksum into the Datapump DOM file, why, if I need to change something, if I'm a malicious user, I can just change something and recalculate the checksum and write that into the DOM file. But it's not that easy, because we write it into an encrypted format in the DOM file, so it's a lot harder to tamper with things in the DOM file. But Datapump will calculate the checksum and store it in the DOM file. Later on, when you need to import, you can do a verification first. You can have Datapump verify that the DOM files are good if you need to do the import later on, or you can simply do it as part of the import process itself. If there is something wrong with the checksum, normally Datapump will produce a warning, but it's up to you to decide whether or not you want to push your log and try to import anyway. But it has become a lot easier to do checksumming to verify the integrity of the DOM file when you use Datapump in 21.
Yeah, thanks, Daniel. And I have the next feature, again, an auto upgrade feature, the restore. Because auto upgrade can revert your database upgrades. And this is especially very important when you test. So auto upgrade by default writes a guaranteed restore point, and this allows the tool to flash back the entire database. But this is not everything auto upgrade can do. It can do much more than that in terms of restore. It can also revert a plugin operation when you copied the data files. So when you told auto upgrade to copy the data files, then it can even revert the plugin operation. And this is extremely convenient. Or it can even revert a non-CDB to PDB conversion when the data files are copied. So copying the files here and tell auto upgrade is the key. Simple command, very easy to remember, -restore. And then you have to pass on the job number, like -restore -jobs 101. And I think here, before we show a demo, a quick recap what flashing back means and what auto upgrade has to do here. And by the way, it will include also the service configuration in a rack environment when you do that. So you create a restore point before you do anything. This is what auto upgrade does for you in the pre-upgrade environment. Then auto upgrade or yourself will upgrade the database. And once you want to flash back, the database needs to be shut down immediate in the target environment, then brought into startup mode. Then you flash back to the guaranteed restore point and you shut down. You start up your database in mount mode in your old environment afterwards, and you open the database with reset logs. And if you did it by yourself, or if you have auto upgrade scene doing it for you, then never forget there's still a restore point. So at some point you may want to clean that up, because otherwise your archive destination will run out of space the sooner or later, guaranteed. Let's have a quick look into a demo here. So what are we going to do? I think we first upgrade the database. So this is a 12.201 database. And let me show you the config file we use for auto upgrade. Here you see the parameter, source home, target home, SID. And the last one in line here, the drop GRP of the upgrade, is no anyway by default, but just to emphasize that we don't want to have it cleaned up here. This is important, we have marked it here. Now we kick off auto upgrade with -deploy mode. So auto upgrade will run analyze, fix ups, then upgrade the database, do the post upgrade things. And of course, this is not an upgrade talk, so we speed it up massively. And here already job 100 is completed, and you see this message from auto upgrade that there's a guaranteed restore point. Let me connect to the database now in the 19C environment and do a quick check. Select version from Readonly instance, and it tells me, hopefully, yes, it does, this is 19C. Okay, so upgrade went fine. But I want to go backwards because this is my test. So I call auto upgrade with the same config file, but minus restore minus jobs 100. And what auto upgrade does, and we speed it up here as well, it does exactly what I showed you before on the slide. It will flash back the database. The restore here is completed successfully. No errors. And I connect now to my database in the 12.201 environment. And I check again. And the database ideally should tell me, yes, it does. Ooh, it does 12.201. Good that we recorded the demos beforehand. But I mean, it looks very simple on this demo. Yes, it does. And this is the idea. It's not complicated. It takes away all these manual steps. But in the background, there's much more going on. It takes care on etc ORATAP. It takes care on the clusterware registration. So you don't have to fiddle around now with SRVCTL and all that. Auto upgrade does that for you. It moves the P file, the SP file, the password file, and a lot more. So only thing you have to take into account, if you have a standby somewhere running and you do this, on the standby you have to handle a few steps now manually, but we ask you to visit our auto upgrade deep dive seminar where we show what you need to do there. And I think with this, Daniel is on with the next feature.
Yes, thank you.
Which is cool as well, by the way.
It is.
That's why we included it.
Yeah, I mean, when I worked as a DBA a few years ago, I would have loved to have this feature. But now it's finally here, so it can benefit those of you that are still doing DBA work. So it's gradual password rollover. What does it do? Very short, it allows a user in your database to have 2 valid passwords for a limited amount of time. So you can change the password, but normally, as soon as you did the alter user command or when you change the password, the new password would take effect immediately. The new password hashes would be written to the data dictionary. And now when you try to authenticate, you would need to use the new password. For a regular user like you and me, that's probably fine. But if you have an application that connects to the database, then you also need to change perhaps a file or a configuration file or some internal setting in the application so that it knows the new password. And that can take time if you have tens or even hundreds of application servers that connects to the database. So the way that you do it is that you create a profile, a regular user profile, and there's a new parameter called password rollover time. And you give it a value. So this is the amount of time that a certain user is allowed to connect with both of the passwords. Then you create your user or you do an alter user and you tell that user to use that profile. The minimum rollover time that you can specify is 1 hour and the maximum is 60 days. So I think that those limitations are in there, especially with the 60 days, because I mean, we don't want people to abuse this feature. So in the end, you eventually have to have all your applications to use the new password. It's originally a 21C feature, but it was backported and included in the 19.12 release update. So that's the one that came out in July this year. So if you're on 19C, which you should be because it is our long-term support release, you can use this feature as of 19.12. Okay, we'll do a demo just in a little while, but sometimes it could be very useful to see which users are using the old password. So if you are in the process of changing all these applications to use a newer password or these new servers, how do you get an idea of which ones are left, which one are still using the old password? If you're using Unified Audit Trail, which you eventually should, you can use that to determine which user is connecting using the old password. There's a column called authentication type. And if you look at that, at the example in the bottom, highlighted in red, you can see that there is an option or a parameter called verifier. And that tells you whether or not you're using the new or the old verifier. So search for old and you will find those that are still using the old password. Good. So let's do a little demo. I create a profile where I set the rollover time to 1 hour. Then I create a user, app user, and I give it a password called old password. And I specify the profile that I just created. Then I'm granting create session so we can connect. I can see here that the account status is open on this app user, so it can connect to the database. Now I give it a new password. I alter the user and I give it a new password. Now the status changes to open and in rollover, so you can see from DBA users whether or not you are in a rollover period. Now I connect using the old password. I'm connected as app user, so even though I have a newer password for this, I can still connect. Then I try to do a connect as app user again, but I specify the new password. And it works as well. I'm still connected as app user. Open and in rollover. So now let's try to expire the rollover period. Expire password, rollover period. Now the status changes to open. So now the user is no longer in a rollover period and you will not be allowed to use the old password. So even if you have set a rollover period of 7 days, as soon as you have confirmed that all the applications have now changed to use the new password, you can then expire the rollover period and only use the new password. So this is a very useful, good security feature that can help you roll over your passwords. That sometimes that could be a cumbersome operation that might require downtime because you would need to change all those application servers. But by using this new feature in 21 or in 19, it should be easier to change those passwords and strengthen security in your database. And now more upgrade.
Final feature for today, Unplug plug. Let's go in, and auto upgrade can now perform unplug plug upgrade. So if you remember, auto upgrade can upgrade your non-CDB, it can upgrade your CDB with all its PDBs, what we call everything at once, but it took a while until we could let auto upgrade also do the unplug plug upgrades. So the idea is we have a source CDB on the left side, and there's this PDB1, and we have a target CDB on the right side, and it's a higher release. Let's say it's 12.201 to 19C. And now auto upgrade will unplug your PDB, plug it in, and will upgrade it. That's the idea here. Sounds simple, but requires a lot of additional steps in the code. First of all, you have to have some additional parameters in your config file. What you need to have is, first of all, the target CDB. So my source SID is my CDB1. This was the, let's say, 12.201 on the left side. And my target CDB is the one I want like to plug in, and it's CDB2 on the right side. But now I have to also point to the PDB. And this is PDB1 here. So PDB1 should be unplugged and plugged in and upgraded. The command for auto upgrade looks exactly the same. And just a hint on the side, this CDB2, the receiving CDB to your target, must be created by yourself. Auto upgrade doesn't create it for you. When we do this unplug plug, one hint here, there's no flashback operation available. The existing, when you reuse the existing data files. So we have two options here. First of all, the target PDB copy option. When you leave that out, it will just be staying there, but none would be, if I remember correctly, when you have DB create file dest in place, then you hand it over to the control of the database parameters. So you don't have to do anything. While when you are in file system, which applies often to my environments, I love file system and no OMF and no ASM, just a traditional old-fashioned way, then you specify file name convert, and you convert only the patterns you want to change in the file string. So here CDB1 to CDB2. Command is the same. But remember, it takes a little bit time to copy the files. It depends mainly on the size of your PDBs. And the target CDB is located on a different host for this feature here. So it needs to go also to the new host. And for this, we have a new feature which is coming in early 2022, not earlier than that, because in January, we'll have a seek and destroy session in development where we product managers with the developers try to challenge the features. And before we haven't done that, we won't release it publicly. But Daniel, Rodrigo, and I, we have in our environments already the demo tools which can do it already, but we need to challenge it before we go there. So this is a sneak preview of what's coming soon. Upgrade with refreshable clone. The idea here is with a refreshable clone, we can avoid the copy time. Let's assume you have a 68 terabyte PDB and it takes a long while. So much smarter is doing this with a refreshable clone, but also for testing. What we need on the source side, in the source CDB, we need this clone user. We call it C## Borg here. And the important thing is that this clone user needs these privileges granted, create session, create pluggable database. That's obvious, but very important is to select any catalog, because without that, auto upgrade can't do some very important things needed in the database. So we grant this to C## Borg, and then we throw over a line over the fence from our target CDB, from CDB2 to CDB1 via a database link. So we open that connection for the clone user for C## Borg. And once this is in place, we can go on here. And now we kick in auto upgrades with the commands we showed you before. SID is my source, target CDB is my target, PDB1 is my PDB, and I specify now the DB link's name for this PDB with the attribute PDB1. And this will allow now the refreshable clone, but it's called refreshable. So what if we could pass to auto upgrade the refresh interval? And this is what we are doing here with the 600. This is 600 seconds, so 10 minutes. What will happen now is that auto upgrade does this move we showed you in the quick animated demo before. It moves the database over, and then it will refresh it after the copy operation has been finished, the cloning operation, and we refresh it with the redo on the given interval. Unless you say, okay, cut now. Now I'm ready. Now everything is refreshed. Now I'm ready to test, or I'm ready to go forward, and then you upgrade. And this is such a super cool feature, and this is why we are looking forward to this being released in early 2022 as part of a new version of auto upgrade then. And I think, Daniel, there's one thing to say. It uses the create pluggable database statement. And this automatically, this is just the informational aside, adjusts the parallel degree. So you don't have to worry about, do I have to parallelize the copy operation or whatever. Auto upgrade does that all for you. Yeah, and I think, Daniel, you may speak the final words here.
Yeah, I really love that refreshable clone PDB feature, or upgrade using refreshable clone PDBs. That's so useful. And I mean, you saw that you could specify the database link for each individual PDB. So you can actually take PDBs from multiple source CDBs and then consolidate them into one new target CDB. Refresh them over redo from various CDBs, and then eventually upgrade them when you're ready to do that. That's so cool. But there are no more cool features today. There are a lot more cool features in Oracle Database 21, but these were the ones that we would like to talk about. If you want more tech stuff, visit our blogs. Here's a link to the webinars that we advertised for in the beginning. We also have a YouTube channel where we post videos 2-3 times a week. We follow our same mantra, so it has to be all tech, no marketing, no buzzwords, short videos that are easy to digest. And if you want to hear more from us, Mike and I are coming back on Monday to talk about upgrade to 19C from 0 to hero. This is for you that hasn't upgraded for a while or are new to upgrading. We will guide you through the basics from 0 to hero. And then on Saturday, 11th of December, we are coming back with a very cool talk that I know Mike loved as well. It's called, Is It Fixed in 23C? Where we talk about the inner workings. We talk about the inner workings of Oracle development. So from from the second that you hit a bug and you create a service request, what happens between you and the supporter and developer, and what happens? What does it take for us to eventually deliver a patch for you? So it's a lot about the internal workings of Oracle development. And with that, I think that was the final word. I have nothing more to say today other than it was a pleasure, and I'm really looking forward, and I know Mike is looking forward to coming back on Monday as well, because that's a full talk on upgrade. We love upgrades. And I hope to see you at least on Monday or on December 11, Saturday.
Yeah, there's only one question I see in the blog where we have a video demo of the refreshable clone upgrade uploaded. I think we haven't done yet, but it's for one of our upcoming seminars. We are certainly doing one because we play with that feature all the time. So
perhaps we should do a Christmas special or holiday special. Put out a sneak peek into the refreshable clone PDB. So watch our YouTube channel, and we might post a sneak peek as we get closer to the holidays.
That's a cool idea. We'll do that. Awesome. Okay, thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Mike and Daniel. Thank you. Yeah, that's a great presentation.
Everybody.
Obviously, some of very cool features. I'll stop the recording here. I think you answered that question, so I'll stop the recording here. Thank you very much, and thank you everyone for your participation. Please resist to as many sessions as possible. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
CloudDB, shaping your new normal.